What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Be Better podcast, episode 37, with a special guest of ours, Ryan Spell. Wanted to touch base. I know it's been a couple weeks since we shot a episode here. Obviously, the holidays played a factor. We've done some traveling, did some upgrades to the podcast as well, hoping this is going to be a better experience for you guys. And we're super happy to welcome on tonight's guest, Ryan. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing awesome, man. Thanks for coming on our podcast, and we're ready to talk about this book and talk more about you. Heck yeah.
Yeah, brother, living the dream.
Awesome.
So I want to jump right in. Obviously, man, I'm pretty excited to meet with you. It's been some time in the making here. So An Army of Lies, right? Your first novel here.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit, so I haven't been able to get to the very, very end. I'm close though, but I wanted to know, where did all this stem from? Did this just come randomly to you, or is this all based on, maybe an experience? Like, where did the idea to write this book come from?
I mean, basically, about 12 years ago, I was reading probably 60 novels a year, and I said I wanted to write one. And I started 12 years ago. I wrote the first chapter, the prologue, probably 60 times. Every time I sat down to write, I would just rewrite instead of writing more. Then I started doing some web design type stuff and kind of got my creative juices going. And I finally just said, you know what, don't even look at chapter one or the prologue, and just continued on. And took me about 3.5 months to get out everything on paper without any kind of edits or anything. So, the process took another 3 months after that. But I finally sat down, just got all the whole story out.
I love it. So that's the typical process, right? Of you do something 1,000 times until you finally get it right. I mean, that's just kind of the procrastination there, I'm sure, kicks in, but also, the tenacity to make it right. That's the beautiful thing about it, man. So after you kind of did that, what was the other kind of the production phase like?
So besides that, let's go back 1 second. I actually I did all kinds of research, in between those years. Like 7 years ago, I went to New York. I met with the private investigator from New York, interviewed him, did research in New York, all the places and things like that. So if you didn't, I know you've read most of it, but all the places, for the most part, except for the bar, are real restaurants and places in New York.
No kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I procrastinated, yes, but I also was continually doing stuff with it, even though I didn't sit down and write.
That's actually pretty interesting. So did you kind of already have a general idea of where you wanted these locations to be? Or whenever you were doing your research in New York, did you just happen to did you just happen to stumble across oh, this would be the perfect setting for this?
No, it was more of just how it fit in the story. Trying to find places that worked with the story. So I just marked down places that we went, different things like that. Like there's a speakeasy in the book, and my wife and I, when we went to 4 or 5 different speakeasies, and I actually went to the one that's in the book that's now been renamed since we had been there. But so I used all the history on that as part of the speakeasy in the book.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. What are some things that really caught your eyes over in New York while interviewing the PI? What really grabbed your attention that you wanted to add to the book?
I mean, New York's just such a crazy place. I guess there's always stuff going on. The PI, he said, a lot of the work that he does is basically investigating and staking out places, things like that. He doesn't. It's not as fast paced as my book probably is, or is exciting. But I got the general ideas of what a private investigator in New York would do.
I really like the.
Oh, go ahead, Sorry, no, I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead. I think we're about to say the same thing.
I don't know. Whenever I think of the PI, it made me think of the rabbit and the. I know it's not the same, but just it just really grabs my attention. It had the that trying to piece together all those little, clues. And I mean, that's where my mind goes. But the book's very, very interesting in the way you write it. Something I just had to say. It's pretty interesting. The clue finding pieces.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit different from your average private investigator murder mystery novel because it's so fast. The chapters are short. Everything moves pretty quickly. I've read a lot of books, and I feel like a lot of them have a lot of filler, and mine really doesn't have that.
What made you go that route? The quick pace or quick chapters?
The quick chapters was something that I wanted to do to entice readers. I mean, I always am one of those people who, if I get to the end of the chapter and something exciting happens, I have to see what's on the next page, and I see how many pages are in the next chapter. So if there's only 3 or 4, I'm like, oh, I'll read another one, so that pushes me to read more. So I feel like if I give that to my readers, they have the opportunity to push on. And a lot of the people who read it just, couldn't put it down. They had to keep going because every time they looked at the next chapter, well, it's only 4 pages. I'll read some more.
Yeah, that's actually a really good marketing ploy for the book. I mean, I like that a lot because, most of the books that I've read, it's a 30, 40 page chapter, right? And you're saying, fuck, I can't get through this tonight, right? I don't want to stop, but I can't bust out another chapter. For you to give them a little bit of a break after a couple pages, I mean, not only do they feel accomplished, they feel like, oh, well, God bless, I read 15 chapters today, right? You say that to somebody, they may not know that you only read 40 pages, but it's also giving you that mental stimuli that you need to keep going, right? I mean, if how many chapters is your book? 56?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So there's 56 chapters, right? You can bust out 20 of them in one night. That's a really good read, and that's an easy read.
Right. And I definitely want to make it an easy read for people who even, not your average readers can pick it up and just, get into it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let me ask you this. Why New York?
Just it's just one of those cool places. I loved it when I was there. I'm from St. Louis. I probably could have done it here, but I don't know. It just had a draw, and that's always where I saw my book being.
When you were writing, did you have a certain type of demographic people in mind? I know you said you wanted to write it a little bit more, different for some readers, but is there a certain demographic you're aiming for?
Not really. I wanted it really to appeal to as many people as possible. It's a good question. I feel like, I've got an 11-year-old son. He's 12 now, but as I was writing, I wanted something that he could easily read. So there's no real graphic language. There's no steamy scenes per se. But it's something that also is engaging on the mind. So yeah, I didn't really have a demographic. I mean, my buddy he's from Afghanistan. Okay. He doesn't read hardly at all, but he moved here 12, 15 years ago. So he sat and read it as I wrote it, and he treated it like a Netflix, series, because we would meet like once a week, and it helped me continue writing as fast as I did because I had to make sure I had products for him to see. But for someone who doesn't read at all, he thoroughly was able to read it because it didn't have, a ton of big words and a bunch of filler things that he doesn't, understand. But at the same time, it's enough to keep people engaged.
That's one thing that gets on my nerves whenever I'm reading is the fillers. It's like, I just keep reading and reading. It's just kind of BS. And I just want to get to the
right.
hot scene or, the murder, or, it's just, it really, I want that thrill, and my attention span's not the longest. So like sometimes I'll have to read a little bit and hit the filler, right? Gotta put it down, come back and, get more ready to read and try it again. That's a great idea. I'm glad that was one of your decisions. What made you stick with the amount of chapters in the book? Why not longer? Why not shorter?
So what I did, like I said, it took me 11 years, 12 years, or I guess 11 years to actually sit down and do it. And basically all I did was just throw it all out on the computer. Not very detailed, stuff like that. And then I ended up with like 37,000 words or something. Found out that, you know, a novel has to be 40,000 for it to be termed a novel versus a novella. So I went back and wrote 5,000 more words, but that was really hard because I didn't want to affect my story that I wanted out. So basically, to sum it up, I wrote the story I wanted and was happy with that. And so, you know, I didn't push for it to be longer. I didn't want to change what the main story was about, essentially. I didn't want that filler. I didn't want anyone, you know, saying, oh, he just did this to get more pages. I feel like every chapter in the book is actually towards the story.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It all kind of like I always look at it like building blocks, right? Like every little bit that I was kind of encompassed in. How do I explain it? It just made it all fell into place. You know what I mean? Sometimes you see some novels out there, they'll shift you here, they'll push you there, they'll put you here, right? And you're just like, what the hell? Where is the plot going? In this case, I feel like it was very streamlined and all kind of relevant to the overall tone, which I, as a reader, appreciates that. I mean, it's just crazy. You know, whenever other novels I've read are just the complete opposite. I'm just like, okay, I'm drawn in, but like, where the hell are we going with this?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I love reading still. It's, you know, but there are times when I'm like reading paragraphs that all say the same thing. And like you said, you just want to get to it. So I just wanted my book to be how I would want to read, essentially.
Yeah, no doubt about that for sure. So going back to the book, right? So how many of these, I want you to answer this without giving it away. How many of these do you think are going to be about Angelo? Like how many more do you think you have until his story is complete?
So right now there's a trilogy, basically. I haven't decided if I'm going to do, you know, some other Angelo books not tied to this whole, you know, synopsis. As you'll find out soon, there'll be book 2 coming out. But there's 3 books in this series, all dealing kind of with his wife's murder, essentially. So if you read the first book, you know, you'll know that it's a continuation. So
yeah, that makes, God bless, man. I'm excited to see the other ones. When do you have an estimated time on whenever you think, you know, the other one will be done?
So I'm actually in the final design of book 2. I'm thinking probably mid-September, early October of 2024.
That's pretty soon, my friend.
Man, yeah, that's right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a little time promoting this book, doing some book signings, things like that. And then I finally, I gave myself a couple months off, and then I sat down and wrote. And I wrote a little bit longer on this one. So the first book was 194 pages. This one's going to be 220. So just a little bit longer, but still within that short book, fast feeling.
I'm curious. So the second book seemed like you were able to write a lot more fluent, not maybe not fluent, but you know, you had the I guess motivation and you had the time to sit down. Is there any special place you'd like to write at?
Actually, I like to write when it's loud and noisy. I don't get distracted very easily, but I like just having stuff going on. I don't like being in a quiet place.
Is there any specific spot that's loud and noisy that you like to be at more than others? Because when you say lounge,
Um,
I don't know. The first thing that pops in my mind is like a concert, which
oh yeah, no, just like I'll be at restaurants or my buddies' bars or things like that. And I'll sit down and write if I have an idea. I've always got my computer in the car. People think it's weird when you're sitting at a bar writing on a computer. They actually ask you if you're the DJ.
I'm sure it's a great conversation starter, though, right?
Oh yeah, I sold lots of books out of that bar.
Has there
So
ever been a? Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
I'm saying, so I'm looking at the publishing of just the novel here. Is this a self-published book?
Yeah.
For all
Yeah,
those out there who are readers and who maybe do not know this, I just want to congratulate Ryan on having a self-published book. Not only one, look this aesthetically pleasing, but just getting it out there in mass. It's super difficult to not have a publisher back you. It is probably one of the hardest things in the writing world you can do. So I just want to congratulate you on getting that done correctly, because the book looks great. Everything's formatted right. I didn't see any errors, which is a huge thing. But I mean, congratulations on just completing that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Peggy Neiman, she's my book designer. So she's the one who formatted it and did the cover design. I gave her this crazy looking thing that I made on my phone, and she turned it in to that book cover, which was insanely blew my mind.
Ain't no kidding there, man. Matt, did you? I'm sorry, Matt. Did you have a question or anything?
Oh no, I was just kind of just gonna say like, oh, you're probably at the bar and someone comes up to you and you're like, oh man, I just had this idea, but that kind of thing.
Oh, people tried to give me ideas and what to write in the story all the time. And then they give me new book ideas too. They'd be like, oh, you should do this next.
Does that annoy you, or does that kind of fuel the curiosity and helps you with your book?
Most of the time I'm not annoyed. Usually, I'll think about it and just be like, oh, well, here's where I'm going, or that's a good idea. Maybe I'll keep that for the next one. Yeah, generally, I don't get annoyed by that question because I am the one in the middle of a bar writing a book.
Fair. Oh goodness. Let's see.
So you both have read it so far, at least most of it. Who's your favorite character?
I hate being asked this question. Because it's hard for me to. I can't give you an honest answer until I read it, until it's done, right? Until it's finished. I just, because it's not fair, right? Like, you ever seen a movie, right? At the beginning of the movie, if, let's say it's a 2-hour movie and you and I are watching 40 minutes in, and I ask you the same question, you'd be like, well, I don't fucking know. Like, like we don't even know what's going to happen yet, right? So I'd say obviously the main guy, right, Angelo, he's got a pretty interesting, how he handles everything is pretty unique, right? Obviously being a PI is their own kind of special breed. So for me, having a passion for, kind of a law enforcement side of me, I like the PI side. I like the detectiveness work. But some of the guys, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to. Matt, did you have a definitive character that you liked? I can't tell you yet, honestly. I mean, I hate to just be the generic, like, oh, it's gonna be it's gonna be Angelo, the main guy. But the reality is, like, I don't want to give you an actual answer until I'm finished reading it.
I mean, 45% of the people tell me Angelo, 50% of the people say Lewis, and then there's a 5% of all the little other characters here and there. So generally it's Angelo or Lewis.
What if I said Grant?
I mean, that's fine. I mean, some people like the guy or the villain.
Not not saying yet, but I'm just saying it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, until you finish it, you won't even know, because I'll lead you down so many different trails, you'll have no idea who did it.
That's the best way, man. That's the best way to do it. Matt, what did you say?
I mean, I definitely, right now I'm at, Angelo. Lewis is very interesting. So I'm going to have to say Angelo. I mean, he's just a well-rounded character who keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of people who, they're like, well, when you get done with the third book, I want to see a book just on Lewis. you know, they want to see the inside of his life.
That
That
actually
would be-
sounds like a great spinoff.
Yeah. So I mean, there's ideas floating around, but I gotta finish book 3 first.
I think honestly, even with Grant, you could do a backstory.
Yeah. Well,
Damn.
Now
you guys will be excited. I'm not gonna give anything away, but you know, never count out anybody who's in the first book to not appear again.
Oh, man, you got me on my edge of the seat now. I'm excited. Oh, well, hopefully, I mean, I can't wait till that next book come out because I'm gonna really. Well, I mean, and then I'll have to wait for number 3, right? Shoot.
Yeah, I know, but I mean that's the good part. You know, hopefully, you know, book 3 will complete everybody's, you know, story, and I can say, okay, here you go. Now you know everything.
Is there any future books that you? I know this one's kind of like the PI murder mystery solving cases. Is there a different type of genre you want to kind of jump into, or do you want to stay with more of this type in the
I
future?
mean, overall, I would say probably about 90%. If I continue writing books, it'll be this type of genre. But at the same time, one of the first book ideas I ever had. So the reason Angelo is a PI/bartender is because I am a entrepreneur / a lot of different things, plus a bartender. I mean, I bartended for 15 years. So that's kind of, you know, Angelo is not me per se, but that's kind of, you know, the direction I was taking him in. So to your question, I have so many crazy stories about bartending. And so I thought I could, you know, like interview bartenders and tell some of my crazy stories and just do like a compilation book of crazy bar stories. Because, man, I've had some crazy things said to me while working behind a bar.
Oh, I'm sure. I used to be a what do you call it? A bouncer at a bar, and
Yeah.
it's just a different world. I tell you what,
Yeah.
especially with anything with alcohol in it, it's just, you know, it's fun, it's crazy, it's exciting. It's wild.
Well, there's
man.
something special though about being a bartender, right? I mean, it's something about people just always wanting to open up and talk to you about whatever, right? I mean, you can hear the most fucked up story in the world you would never even think of, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe this guy just told me that, right? Like, you know, you're serving them drinks, and the more you feed them, right, the more alcohol you give them. At the same time, the more open and honest they are. I'm sure the stories that you've been told are like, man, I think this was illegal, but just tip me good.
Yeah. I've had some about, you know, some girl told me how she had an abortion. I'm like, oh, and like this is how you keep to yourself. They just open up to bartenders all the time about just the craziest shit.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've always, no, I'm not a bartender. I never have been. I've never worked in a bar, but I'll tell you, I'm on the other end of that where, like, for some reason, people just always want to open up and talk to me about their problems. I'm like, sir, I've known you 48 minutes. Like, I don't need to know about your abusive father who used to kick you down a flight of stairs. Like, I'm here to help and listen, but you don't have to feel obligated to tell me those things. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyways, back to the book. So, are you currently, is the book available in any bookstores? Is this all digital right now?
It's all digital. I did do a book signing at Barnes and Noble here in St. Louis. So they had it on the shelves for a little while until they sold out. But yeah, it's all through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, all online. Ebook, audiobook, they're on all kinds of platforms, including all those, you know, Amazon, Kindle, iPhone.
I'm curious, did you read your book for the audiobook version?
I did not. I've had a lot of people ask me. It wasn't something I wanted to do. It's a lot. It's very time consuming, I would have to believe. But no, I hired a guy from Find Away Voices, John Andrews, and he did phenomenal. He did it in a New York accent. So it's actually, what's crazy is I don't think I ever listened to Audible books until mine came out. And I had already read the story. I wrote the story. So hearing it on Audible was like a whole different world.
Especially a New York accent. That just seems 10 times awesomer.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was completely, I went through auditions and things like that for the voice, and he right away was one of my number one choices, and he ended up, being the one that I picked in the end. And then he added that little riff to it, and I was like, yeah, 100%, that's what I want.
So you said it is on audiobook, right?
Yeah.
What about Audible?
Yep, it's on Audible.
Holy shit, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm a guy too, where like I like to put my, my face in a book actually sometimes and get the real version. But however, dude, sometimes, I'm so busy with other things. Like I have to just go and just pop in an audiobook and drive, or, just listen while I'm working out or while I'm doing chores or around the house, whatever it is, like that's kind of what I have to do sometimes. So I'm actually happy to hear that just in case, for book number 2, if I have to, be a little more focused on other things.
Yeah, same here. As a family guy, with two little kids, it can be a lot sometimes. Whenever I put them down to nap, just pop an earphone in and listen to a good book. So I'm glad that we had those options. I'll do it.
Yeah, no, that's one of my buddies who one of the first people to read the audio or hear the audio. He's like, yeah, we just had a newborn. He's like, so I just threw in the headphones and listened to your book. He's like, it was the best thing ever.
Are we all still here? I'm sorry. I think we're having some connectivity issues.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. It kicked me out for a second and brought me back in. So we're still recording. Everything's good to go, but it's so weird how they did that. But anyways, yeah. So, so really, obviously the book story, the saga, if you will, the trilogy, as you said, is going to continue. I am 100% looking forward to these side stories that all kind of blend in together. New York City in a nutshell, right? I have a lot of friends there. It's such a big, diverse area that all these people could just have their own little universes within that same city. And, technically speaking, they could never even bump into each other or be in the same zip code there, but still all have a directly affected lives. I mean, it's just pretty interesting, the universe that you've created here and that where it's going to be able to be taken from. You can go about this with so many different angles.
Yep. And you'll see there's more to come. Yeah, it's definitely it's another reason that I did pick New York. There's just so many different things that go on there that it is easy to get lost in, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have a with the book, right? Obviously we want people to read this, to buy this, to listen to it, all the platforms, right? Do you have a website up right now, or where can people find this?
So I do have a website, www.ryanspell.com. It's also on Amazon. Basically, my website will take you to the Amazon direct link. But there is other things on my website, blogs and things like that, where I'm going to start releasing some short stories. I've got a map plotted out with all the restaurants, like I told you about, on a map of New York, so that they can actually see where they are in New York. Some just tidbits and things like that I'm going to be adding to the website just for people who actually go to the website will get extras.
Yeah, man. I mean, you literally, like I said, you created a universe that uses real places, right? So for me, like I'm a big Sopranos fan. So one of my wet dreams has always been to go to that area and hit all the local spots, right? So for what you can do the same thing, I love that. I absolutely love that idea, because now all these people can go and sit in the same stool or in the same chair, or be in the same building as some of these characters here in the book. I mean, that's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that was one of my things, and I actually want to go back and just kind of travel at places already, or researched them a lot. And so, yeah, that's one of my dreams, to go once I get done with the trilogy, to kind of go and just do all the things they did, essentially.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I'm curious for the second book. Are you going to keep it in New York? Or are you kind of going to dabble somewhere else?
No, all New York.
Oh, nice. Well,
What was that?
Oh, it's so diverse. It's so big, and so it makes
there's a lot of different new places that I'll take you to in the second book. New restaurants, maybe a few old. Obviously, there's a few favorites of Angelo, so he'll be back. He'll be back at the bar, which is the only not real place. Lewis's penthouse is a real place, although it's not a. I described it in the book as a top story, and he divided the wall or whatever. So obviously, there's actually still a wall at the view, but yeah, you could visit that place even.
Yeah, so let me do this. I think we're about where you're on time, so I want to be a little more transparent with our audience out there. They're going to listen to this. This book absolutely was so engaging as far as everything covered in it. I mean, like I said, I like the way it was laid out. I like the storyline. Obviously, as an Italian-American man, I like the location. That's obviously, that's a good thing there. However, on the flip side, guys, if you are looking for something that you can casually read that's going to keep you engaged, it's easy to read. There's not a lot of fluff. There's not a lot of BS, right? There's no weird plot holes where the aliens come down and kill everybody. Nothing like that. This definitely gets my endorsement for a good, solid book. If this is one of the books that I would take traveling, to be honest with you. This is the perfect plane book. This is the perfect beach book. I mean, it's just, if you're in a long car ride, why would you not want to knock out 20 chapters in a car ride, right? I mean, that's just the perfect way the book is laid out. The story's good. It's engaging. There's not really any dry spots that I ran into thus far, and I'm probably about 75% done. Most books have like a couple chapters. You're like, fuck, I understand why this was in here, but this was terrible. I think this was pretty solid across the board. So it's got my endorsement. It's got Matt's endorsement and the Be Better podcast behind it. Guys, obviously out there, go on to his Amazon store. Go to ryanspell.com. Check out the book. I'm actually on the website right now. Pretty awesome content on here. And obviously, as he just mentioned, you can get it on the audio version as well. I mean, that's a no-brainer for anybody out there. There's no reason why somebody shouldn't be picking up this book and checking it out.
I appreciate it. I hope to read it. Go out and buy it and let me know what they think too.
Yeah, brother, for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. This is the wrap-up portion of episode 37 here with Ryan Spell. Ryan, I can't thank you enough for coming on and kind of walking you through this. I can't wait to leave a review myself when I'm done reading it. Actually, you know what? Because you have the audio version now and it's in that accent, I might actually purchase that to get the real authentic experience. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to do that.
The New York accent.
I think that just adds such another level of depth to this. I think I'm going to do that actually. So disregard what I just said. I'm going to finish reading it and I'm going to go get the audio version so I can actually get the real authentic version of it. But guys out there, if you made it this far, go to Ryan Spell's pages. All of his social medias will be linked in our thing. The link to buy the book will be on there. Everything you can think of, his Amazon store, his website, all that good stuff will all be linked in here. Do us a favor, do him a favor. Pick it up. I promise you won't be disappointed. Best thing too, like he said, let him know what your experience was. Let him know what your thoughts were. If it was a great book, if it wasn't so great, whatever you think, let him know so he can make the next one better. And Ryan, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Yep, thank you guys. And make sure you let me know what you think at the end.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Well, guys, like I said, this is the end of the podcast. So I'll tell you what, if you have any questions for us, want to get in contact with Ryan, have any questions about the book, as I'm sure Matt and I, had before kind of he walked us through there, get in contact with us, like, share, subscribe, whatever you guys do. I'm going to leave you how I always leave you. If you don't do anything else, just be a little better. Thanks, guys.